All right, so welcome to this deep dive, and today we're going to really try to help you conquer something that I know plagues a lot of people, and that is the fear of public speaking.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to be drawing from a book called Speak with No Fear by Mike Acker.
Okay.
And this is a book that's all about practical tips, real-life stories, and it's all about transforming from a nervous wreck when it comes to public speaking into a confident speaker. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to take away some really good tips and techniques.
Yeah, I think that's a great goal. And I think, what's interesting is right out of the gate, this book, it really grabs you with its opening line. It says more people fear public speaking than death.
Wow.
Which is, it's a bold statement, but I think it really speaks to how common this fear is.
Yeah, it's kind of a relief to know that it's not just me.
Right.
So how does Acker suggest we start tackling this fear?
Well, he uses a really interesting analogy. He talks about like a physical wound, just like you wouldn't just put a Band-Aid on a cut without cleaning it first. You can't ignore the root cause of your fear of public speaking.
I see.
You have to kind of uncover and clean that wound, get down to the root cause of what's going on.
Okay. So I like that analogy because it makes it feel less abstract.
Right.
So we're talking about like digging into those past experiences that might be fueling the fear.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. He shares a story about a man named William, and William had this traumatic experience speaking way back in elementary school.
Oh, wow.
And it really affected him for years, but he eventually overcame it, by revisiting that experience, by kind of reframing it.
So it sounds like he turned that negative experience into a learning opportunity. Mm-hmm. What are some of the practical ways that we can kind of counsel ourselves like William did?
Well, the book suggests a few different things. You can try journaling about the experience to kind of get those feelings out in the open.
Okay.
You can seek professional counseling. That's always an option too. And believe it or not, he even suggests turning that negative experience into a speech itself.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was interesting.
So turning the thing you fear into a source of power.
Right.
That's really cool. But okay, so what about those anxieties about things going wrong during a speech? Acker talks about this strategy, imagine the worst. Isn't that kind of counterproductive? Wouldn't that just make you more anxious?
Yeah, and I think that that's a common misconception. The idea isn't to dwell on all the negative possibilities, but rather to prepare yourself mentally and emotionally for anything that might come up.
Okay.
Think of it like an athlete visualizing their performance before a big game. They're imagining different scenarios, both good and bad. Mm-hmm. So they're not thrown off balance when the pressure's on.
Yeah. So it's about gaining perspective and control, not amplifying the fear.
Exactly.
I remember the book has that hilarious anecdote about the student body president, Todd, whose fly was down during his entire speech to the faculty.
Oh, yes.
Poor Todd.
Poor Todd. But, I think the point of the story is to illustrate that, even when things go wrong, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
We often kind of blow things out of proportion in our minds.
Yeah. Okay, so imagine the worst is more about mentally rehearsing for those potential mishaps so you can handle them gracefully if they happen.
Right. All right.
Yeah. I see. And he has some exercises in the book, too, to help you practice this, right?
He does. Yeah. He recommends visualizing the speech in detail, like from the moment you step up to the podium to the final applause. He even suggests writing out like a list of potential disasters.
Oh my gosh.
And then brainstorming solutions for each one.
Wow. Okay.
So that you're prepared.
That's a great way to feel more prepared and in control. But what if you just feel awkward and unnatural when you're speaking?
Yeah.
Like you're trying too hard to be someone you're not.
That is where Acker's strategy of you be you comes in.
Okay.
And he draws a really interesting parallel here to stand-up comedians and how their personalities are just as important as their jokes. Mm-hmm. It's their authenticity that makes them relatable and funny.
Yeah, so trying to force a persona while speaking is kind of like a comedian telling jokes that don't fit their style. It just feels off.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. He described it as adding weight to the situation.
Oh.
Imagine holding a dumbbell close to your body versus holding it way out here.
Mm.
It's a lot harder when it's farther away.
Right.
So trying to be someone else adds that extra weight to your presentation.
Oh, that makes sense. I remember when I first started giving presentations, I would try to mimic other speakers I admired.
Sure.
But it always felt so forced and awkward.
Yeah, it's because you weren't being true to yourself.
Yeah.
And the book actually cautions against forcing humor. Trying to be funny if it doesn't come naturally can actually backfire.
Oh, for sure. So how do we find that unique voice and speak authentically?
Well, he encourages you to record yourself speaking and then analyze what works well. What are your strengths? Let those shine through. He also suggests seeking inspiration from a variety of speakers.
Okay.
Not just trying to copy one person.
So it's about developing your own style instead of mimicking someone else.
Exactly.
Okay. But what about the fear of the audience itself?
Yeah.
That feeling of being judged by a sea of faces.
Oh, yeah.
Acker talks about this strategy called speak to one. But how does that actually work in practice?
Well, it's a really powerful technique that can kind of help to humanize the experience.
Okay.
Instead of seeing the audience as this big faceless crowd, focus on connecting with individuals. Think of it as having a conversation with a friend.
So it's about shifting our perception of the audience. So instead of seeing them as this judgmental mass, we see them as individuals with their own stories and experiences.
Exactly. Oh. Yeah, he has an anecdote about a client who had to present to this group of businessmen, and she perceived them as really intimidating. But by reframing them as individuals with their own hopes and fears, she actually felt less anxious.
Okay, so our perception of the audience can actually impact our whole experience. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we see them as intimidating, we'll feel intimidated. But if we see them as individuals that we want to connect with, it becomes less daunting.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, he points out that most people actually want the speaker to succeed.
Oh, really?
They're not sitting there hoping that you'll mess up.
Okay, that's reassuring.
Right.
But how do we actually make that connection with the audience?
Right.
Does he give any specific tips for that?
He does. He actually provides this handy 6-point checklist to kind of help you create that sense of connection.
Right.
And he emphasizes the importance of, arriving early to kind of familiarize yourself with the space, maybe greet a few audience members.
Oh, okay. So kind of break the ice before the main event.
Exactly. Yeah. And the checklist also includes things like, managing your caffeine intake.
Oh, right.
Avoid those jitters. Smiling to create a welcoming atmosphere.
Smiling's so important.
It really is. It makes you more approachable.
Yeah.
It puts the audience at ease.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's talk about another one of his strategies that really resonated with me. It's not about you.
Yeah.
This one was a game changer for me personally. It's so easy to get caught up in our own heads when we're speaking, but he argues that we need to shift our focus.
Right, and that is a crucial point.
Okay.
He delves into the psychology of the audience here, reminding us that people are primarily focused on themselves and how the speech will impact them.
Interesting.
He uses a clever analogy from the movie What Women Want, where Mel Gibson's character discovers that even when people are looking at him, they're thinking about their own concerns.
So it's not that the audience doesn't care. It's that their primary focus is on what they're getting out of the experience.
Right. And he emphasizes that, most people actually want the speakers to succeed because, a speaker's discomfort often translates to the audience's discomfort.
Yeah.
He shares a story about John Maxwell delivering a really short speech at a golf event because he recognized that his audience was tired, they'd been out on the course all day, and they needed less, not more.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Right.
It highlights the importance of understanding the audience's needs.
Exactly.
And tailoring your message accordingly.
It's about making it about them.
Okay.
Not about you. And he recommends asking yourself questions like, what do they want to gain from this? And how can I serve them with my message?
And he encourages going the extra mile by planning, thoughtful touches, practicing active listening, really understanding the audience's hopes and fears and needs. But even if you're focusing on the audience, those pre-speech jitters can still be overwhelming. Acker's next strategy, channel the power, addresses that head on.
Right.
So what's that all about?
Well, he actually acknowledges that he still gets nervous before speaking.
Really?
But he's learned to reframe that nervous energy as fuel for a captivating presentation.
Okay.
It's about harnessing that energy instead of letting it control you.
So it's like turning anxiety into excitement. But how do you actually do that?
Well, he uses this analogy of a dam where fear is like water building up.
Okay.
And he encourages releasing that pressure gradually through pauses, purposeful movement, and passion.
Oh, interesting. He even shares a story about how learning to box helped him transform that stress into physical exertion.
Yes.
That's fascinating how physical activity can be such a powerful tool for managing anxiety.
It is, and he also argues that complacency can be detrimental to a presentation.
Oh, okay.
He compares it to an athlete who becomes arrogant and loses that desire to connect.
So even if you've given the same speech 100 times, you still need to bring that passion and energy to each delivery.
Exactly.
Got it.
It's about maintaining that sense of care for your audience and your message.
Yeah.
And it all culminates in this fantastic quote. He attributes it to John Wesley. "Light yourself on fire with passion, and people will come from miles to watch you burn."
Wow.
Right.
That's powerful.
It speaks to the contagious nature of genuine enthusiasm.
Yeah, and it reminds me of some of the most engaging speakers that I've seen. They weren't necessarily polished or perfect, but their passion was contagious.
Yeah, it's that authenticity that really draws people in.
Yeah.
And it connects back to that idea of you be you.
Mm-hmm.
When you're being true to yourself, your passion shines through naturally.
Okay. But what about after the speech is over? Is there anything we can do to manage those, like post-presentation anxieties? I still get those sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Even when I feel like it went well.
Well, Acker's final strategy, be in the moment, offers a really insightful perspective on that.
Okay.
He starts by reflecting on his wedding day.
Oh, okay.
And even though things weren't perfect, he says, those imperfections kind of faded away in the joy of being present in that moment.
That's a beautiful way to illustrate the power of embracing the experience as it unfolds. But it's hard not to get caught up in those what ifs and should haves afterward.
I know, right? And he acknowledges the dangers of living in what he calls this Instagram world.
Oh, yeah.
Where we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, striving for perfection. He emphasizes the importance of enjoying our own journey, imperfections and all.
So it's about letting go of the need for everything to be perfect.
Right.
And just appreciate the experience for what it is.
Okay.
But is there a way to learn and grow from our speaking experiences?
Yeah.
Even the less than perfect ones?
Absolutely. He outlines 3 stages of learning in a speech. There's the preparation.
Okay.
There's the presentation itself.
Yep.
And there's the reflection.
Okay.
And he emphasizes that each stage offers unique opportunities for growth.
So it's not just about the delivery itself.
Right.
It's also about the preparation beforehand.
Yes.
And the reflection afterward.
Yes, it's a continuous learning process.
So it's like a constant evolution.
Right.
And he suggests a really helpful method for reflection called celebrate, cut, change.
Oh, yeah.
What's that all about?
It encourages you to analyze your performance after the fact and identify what went well, what could be improved,
okay,
what you might want to change next time.
So it's like giving yourself constructive feedback so you can continually improve.
Exactly.
Why?
And he compares this to how stand-up comedians will, refine their material based on audience feedback. They're constantly tweaking their jokes and delivery to create the most impactful experience.
That's a great analogy. It shows that even the most seasoned speakers are constantly learning and evolving.
Right.
Okay, so the book concludes with this powerful message about channeling your pre-event anxiety into preparation. And then letting go to enjoy the experience of delivering the speech.
Right.
So it's about finding that balance between preparation and presence.
Exactly. It's about putting in the work beforehand, but then trusting yourself to deliver your message authentically and connect with the audience in the moment.
I love that. This has been so insightful. I'm already feeling a lot more confident about my next presentation.
Me too. Ecker's approach is really empowering. It reframes this fear of public speaking, not as something to be avoided, but as an opportunity for growth and connection.
I love that. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's really about, it is about kind of shifting that mindset, isn't it? From dreading public speaking to seeing it as an opportunity to, share your passions, connect with others.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one thing that stood out to me is how he actually encourages you to kind of embrace those pre-speech jitters.
Yeah.
He doesn't say that you should aim for 0 nerves.
Right. And that's a really important point. A lot of people think that the goal is to just eliminate nervousness altogether.
Right.
But he actually suggests that a little bit of nervous energy can be a good thing.
So it's not about being fearless. It's about learning to kind of manage those nerves effectively.
Exactly. Think about it. If you were completely apathetic about your speech, you probably wouldn't be worried about giving it.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Those nerves are a sign that you care, that you're invested in doing a good job.
Yeah. It's like that saying, if you're not nervous, you're not ready.
Right.
But how do you harness that nervous energy instead of letting it, take over?
Well, he gives some really practical tips for that. He suggests using pauses strategically
Okay.
to create a sense of anticipation and allow you to, kind of regain your composure.
Okay.
Purposeful movement can also help.
Okay.
You release some of that nervous energy without being distracting.
I've definitely seen speakers who pace back and forth aimlessly, and it's more distracting than helpful.
Right. So it's about moving with intention, not just out of nervous energy.
Right.
And of course, there's the power of passion. When you're genuinely excited about your message, it shines through.
Yeah.
And it captivates the audience. Remember that quote he shared? Light yourself on fire with passion, and people will come from miles to watch you burn.
I get chills every time I hear that. And it reminds me of some of the most engaging speakers I've seen. They weren't necessarily polished or perfect, but their passion was contagious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that authenticity that really draws people in. And it connects back to that idea of you be you, right? When you're being true to yourself.
Yeah.
Your passion shines through naturally.
So embracing those nerves, channeling them into passion and purpose, it's starting to sound less like tips and more like a whole new mindset for approaching public speaking.
It is a mindset shift.
Yeah.
And a really empowering one.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what resonated with you the most from all the strategies that we've talked about?
I think for me, it was the emphasis on self-compassion.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to beat ourselves up
Right.
when we make mistakes or we feel nervous.
Right.
But he really encourages us to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah. And that's a crucial point. We often hold ourselves to these unrealistic standards, especially when it comes to public speaking. We compare ourselves to those seemingly effortless speakers.
Oh, yeah.
And forget that everyone gets nervous, even the most experienced presenters.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, he reminds us that it's okay to feel those nerves, to acknowledge them, to treat ourselves with understanding. It's a process. Yeah. We're all on our own journeys.
We are. Speaking of journeys, this deep dive has felt like one.
I know, right? Yeah.
We started by acknowledging the fear, and then we've explored strategies for uncovering its roots, reframing our perceptions, and ultimately channeling that nervous energy into something positive.
Yeah.
Right.
It really feels like we've been given a whole new playbook for tackling this fear head on. And the best part is it doesn't feel overwhelming. He provides such clear, actionable steps
He does.
that anyone can implement.
And it's a playbook that emphasizes our own unique strengths and encourages us to find joy in the process.
I love that. It's not about becoming some perfect, fearless orator. It's about embracing our individuality and using it to connect with others.
Yeah, his message of authenticity really shines through in the book. It's about being comfortable in your own skin and letting your personality shine through in your speaking.
And it reminds us that the audience is not our enemy. They're not sitting there waiting to judge our every word or hoping that we'll mess up.
It's actually quite the opposite. Most people understand the challenges of public speaking and actually empathize with the speaker. They're hoping to gain something valuable from the experience, whether it's entertainment, information, inspiration.
That's reassuring to remember.
Right.
It takes some of the pressure off, knowing that the audience is generally on your side. But even with all these strategies and kind of a shift in mindset, I think it's important to acknowledge that overcoming the fear of public speaking is an ongoing process.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not like you read a book and suddenly, poof, the fear is gone.
Right. It's about, developing the tools and the mindset to manage those nerves and deliver your message effectively.
Yeah.
It takes practice, and there will be setbacks along the way.
Right. But that's okay. That's part of the journey.
It is.
The key is to keep practicing, keep learning, and keep refining our skills.
And to celebrate the progress that we make along the way. Remember that, emphasis on reflection. It's not just about identifying areas for improvement, but also acknowledging what we did well.
I am starting to feel a lot more equipped to tackle my next presentation. I'm actually kind of excited about it now.
Me too. It's amazing how a shift in mindset can make such a difference. It's not about eliminating fear altogether, but using it as fuel to connect with our audience and deliver our message with confidence and authenticity.
I love the idea of channeling that nervous energy into passion and purpose.
Right.
Yeah. And he also highlights the importance of reflecting on our experiences.
Yes.
And learning from both our successes and our mistakes.
That's so crucial. It's about continually refining our craft, becoming more confident and effective speakers over time.
This deep dive has been a real game changer for me.
Oh, me too.
It's given me a whole new perspective on public speaking.
It has for me as well. It's
Yeah.
given us so much to think about and apply to our own speaking journeys. And it's sparked this sense of, excitement and possibility.
I'm feeling inspired to kind of step outside my comfort zone and embrace the power of public speaking.
I am too. It's a skill that can open so many doors and allow us to make a real impact on the world.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what we can accomplish. Wow, it feels like we've uncovered this whole new dimension to public speaking.
Right.
It's not just about, delivering information. It's about connecting, inspiring, and maybe even entertaining along the way.
It is. And what I find so fascinating is how Acker weaves this theme of joy throughout the book.
Oh, okay.
It's not just about conquering the fear, but it's also about finding joy in the process of connecting with an audience.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes public speaking feel less like a chore and more like a creative opportunity.
Right. And he uses the analogy of like a stand-up comedian, refining their material to evoke laughter and create that shared experience of joy.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if maybe part of the fear stems from taking ourselves too seriously. Like maybe if we approach public speaking with a bit more lightness, a willingness to embrace imperfection, it wouldn't feel so daunting.
I think you're onto something there. Remember his final strategy, be in the moment?
Yeah.
He talks about letting go of the need for everything to be perfect and just enjoying the experience as it unfolds.
Yeah, but that's easier said than done.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when those pre-speech jitters kick in.
Absolutely. But remember, he encourages us to channel that nervous energy into preparation.
Right.
And then just trust ourselves to deliver the message authentically.
Okay.
It's about finding that balance between meticulous planning and then that in-the-moment presence.
It's like that saying, prepare like a pro, but perform like a kid.
Exactly. You put in the work beforehand, but then let go and allow yourself to just be present, be in the moment. And I think that's where the real magic happens, when we're not overthinking every word or every gesture, you know? Yeah.
We can tap into that natural charisma and connect with the audience on a much deeper level.
It's amazing how all these strategies, they all kind of work together.
Right.
It's not just about mastering one technique. It's about cultivating a whole new mindset.
It is a mindset shift.
Yeah, around public speaking.
And it starts with self-compassion. Remember, we're all on this journey together.
Yeah.
There will be times when we feel nervous, times when we stumble, and times when we absolutely nail it.
Right. It's about giving ourselves permission to be human, imperfections and all.
And to celebrate those small victories along the way.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored those practical strategies, we've reframed our perceptions, and maybe even sparked a bit of excitement for the possibilities of public speaking.
I think so too. It's been a really enriching conversation. It has. So as we wrap up, is there one final takeaway or a thought-provoking question you want to leave our listeners with? Something for them to ponder as they kind of embark on their own public speaking journey?
He ends the book with this quote by King Solomon.
Okay.
And it's about, finding joy in life. And it got me thinking, what brings you joy?
Yeah.
And how can you bring that joy to your audience?
That's such a powerful question. Because when you're genuinely passionate about your message, it shines through,
It does.
in every aspect of your presentation.
It becomes contagious. Your enthusiasm is going to energize the audience, and they'll be much more receptive to your message.
Right.
So as you prepare for your next speaking opportunity, think about what truly excites you about your topic. What stories can you share? What insights? What experiences can you bring to life for those listeners?
I love that. It's not just about delivering information. It's about sharing a piece of yourself.
Yes.
Your passions, your unique perspective. And that's what makes public speaking so powerful.
It's an act of connection,
Yeah.
of vulnerability, and ultimately of joy.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
The pleasure was all mine. Until next time.